DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. Let's talk microaggressions. This is something that these days, now that we got this whole social justice movement and we got all these race hustlers out here trying to keep y'all excited about anything that involves race, anything that make, if you're a person of color or female, make you feel like a victim. And if you're in the majority or male, especially if you're a white male, make you feel like you're doing something wrong or you've done people wrong just by the very act of being alive. You didn't even do anything. Now, one of the things that I've heard people talking about over the years is microaggressions, which is in somehow, some way, people showing you some form of aggression that might not be overt, it might not be direct, but it must have something to do with race, and it must be rooted somehow, some way in racism. And now people are buying into this shit because, I don't know, well, I do know, people just like to feel like victims. When you're a victim, you're not responsible for your situation. It's somebody else's fault. But I want to talk specifically about microaggressions. And you want to hear me talk more deep on any of this stuff, listen to my podcast, which I don't put it on YouTube because it was just too many videos we was putting up. But if you go to Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, all those, just look up my show. It's called Work on Your Game. But anyway, this concept of microaggressions. And I tell you right now I'm driving, as you can see. There was this dude, white dude, pulling out of a Starbucks parking lot at this light that I had just stopped at back there. And I stopped and gave him plenty of space to let him get in front of me. I'm letting him merge in because it's really hard to get into traffic from that parking lot. So I stopped and gave him mad space so he could get in. And he sees me sitting there with all this space. And I'm looking at him and I'm waving to him like, yo, go ahead, go in. And he didn't even acknowledge the fact that I was waving him in. And he sat there and didn't even take the spot for a minute. And then he slowly came in and took the spot and still didn't acknowledge the fact that I let him in. Now that right there, he's white, I'm black. I could easily say that's a microaggression. I could say it's a macroaggression. I could say that's an example of systemic racism. I could say the example of some white dude using their white privilege is racism. If I was that type of individual, I'm not that type of individual. I don't really give a fuck about that kind of stuff. But I give a fuck enough to be talking about it right now and to explain it to you in this context that I'm going to give you. First of all, let's be clear. Let me make sure I'm being clear where I stand on this. Microaggressions are for pussies. And I'm pausing there because I want to make sure that that message sinks in. Microaggressions are for pussies. If you are using microaggressions or passive aggression, I don't consider passive aggression an admirable trait in a male. Maybe in a female. I understand females being passive aggressive. I don't like when females get passive aggressive, but I get it because that feminine energy, I'm like, all right, I got it. I don't like it, but I got it. I can accept it. I don't respect the man being passive aggressive. I don't respect men using microaggressions. I do not respect any person who is, if you're a male and you're recognizing microaggression or passive aggression in another person and you're complaining about it in such a way like, oh, well, this is somebody doing something wrong because they're showing me a microaggression or they're being passive aggressive towards me. All right, that's for pussies as far as I'm concerned. I'm not the type of person, like, if I feel like you're showing me a microaggression or I feel like you're being passive aggressive towards me, I'm going to get direct aggressive because that's just the way that I deal with things. And direct aggressive does not necessarily mean you got to be trying to fist fight somebody. It doesn't mean you got to be getting in nobody's face. It doesn't mean you're going to beat somebody up or nothing like that. Direct aggressive just means you being direct, you being clear, and you going straight to the source of a situation and addressing it. That's what direct aggressive means. Doesn't necessarily mean you got to physically do anything to anybody, but hey, if it comes to that, then maybe that happens as well. But the whole point is passive aggression and microaggression that's just not even manly. It's not even respectful. So any of you out there, especially you males, if you find that somebody is being passive aggressive towards you or they're showing some microaggression towards you and you're looking at that as if, all right, this person's doing something negative, or you're you're adding that to the ledger of racism or whatever you want to call it these days going against you, here's my advice to you. All right, stop being a bitch. All right, stop being a pussy. All right, anybody can show whatever they want to show to you. Somebody wants to not acknowledge you for letting them merge into traffic. All right, keep driving. All right, if somebody is being somewhat passive aggressive towards you and you're not liking it, listen, these are the choices that you have. If you're in a car, don't hunt the person down. It's not even worth it because they didn't actually do anything, so you don't really have any legal grounds to react to them. But if it's in day-to-day life, you feel like someone's being passive aggressive towards you, then look, address them, approach them and talk to them. Tell them what you're feeling, tell them what you're seeing, why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, and make them come clean about what they're doing. Whether they're doing it or they're not doing it, they'll be clear with you. But don't be a bitch about it and complain if somebody's being passive aggressive or somebody's being microaggressive. The whole point of passive aggression and microaggression is to let that energy out that people have, but they don't want to be direct about it because they know then somebody has a right to respond. But when they do it in a passive way, then it's like they kind of let it out, but there's not going to be any blowback. So the way that you deal with that is to go direct towards that person and make them deal with it. Again, when you're in a situation where it makes sense. Again, don't hunt anybody down in your car. That's stupid. It's a waste of your energy. It's a waste of your time, which is your most valuable resource. But don't be out here complaining about somebody being microaggressive or passive aggressive towards you, because that makes you just as much of a pussy as they are. So that's my word on microaggression, just in case anybody had any issues with this. Now it's solved. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.